Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Miami. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Challenge North America, City Bikes, Veneto, Challenge Athletes Foundation, Florida Dairy Farmers, and Wahoo. Our next guest, 2016 Olympian, Mr. Ben Kanute. Ben, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, Bob.
Being a daddy, how fun has that been?
Oh, it's been fantastic. So I'm tapping into the dad strength everybody talks about. So
Yes.
It's been a ton of fun so far.
So when we were at Challenge Daytona, did you find out like the day of the race that your little one was born?
Well, actually, I knew that Courtney was going into labor as we were talking.
While we were doing the interview?
While we were doing the interview.
Oh
so,
my God.
it basically, Briella decided that she is going to put her foot down and let her know who's boss. And, basically once I left and I was in the air, it all kind of started happening. And, I was in Daytona going through pre-race stuff and also getting on video call as much as possible to check in and make sure everything was okay.
So on race day, knowing that you were a new daddy, how fun was that?
Oh, it was a ton of fun knowing that. I think the race itself wasn't as much fun for me.
Well, you went
with some of
there.
it. So.
You went out into the lead.
Yeah, you gotta sometimes just try and go for it and see what happens.
Right.
And I think 2020 overall, like, had some good prep, but did a lot of specific training and was just maybe missing a couple % or so going into Daytona. And hindsight's 2020. Looking back on it, I think we found some places to improve on, but. You can't be off when you're racing the caliber of the field. Exactly. Yeah. So it was a good race, a good experience. But now we're in Miami, and it's time to race fast.
And it's funny because doing Daytona, you got close to about a 50-mile bike ride that basically was all about power, right? You just kept putting your head down. This is probably about as opposite as it could be because you do have obviously the Speedway, but the backside of this, the road course, is turny and windy and different pavement, but I bet you like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really actually a pretty exciting course. You have, like you said, sections of it where power is really going to matter, but then you have like the road course where it's all about lining up your turns and making sure that you set up for the next one going into it. So. It can get kind of tricky at times, and it's going to take focus for all hour 20 minutes that we're out there racing. And if you kind of lapse a little bit, people are going to gap you, or you're going to not take the corners correctly and lose time.
So this field again: Jan Frodeno, Lionel Sanders, Ben Hoffman. I mean, you've got the who's who. Rudy Von Berg, who we were just chatting with. When you go into this type of a race with this deep a field, what goes through your mind? You try to play out scenarios?
I think every race you try and play out scenarios where people might come out of the water, who you might be riding with, how it might go down. But when it comes down to it, I think I'm a good day of racer. I make decisions based on what's happening in the race, even if I have some preconceived plans going on. But I mean, you race who shows up, and I like racing the best in the business, and this race has that. And I mean, it's just business as usual for me.
Now, what are you hearing on Olympics? Is it happening? Is it not happening? You're a guy who could try to make the team in the individual and in mixed relay.
Yeah, so I'm going. I'm hopefully the relay guy and race the individual alongside that. And it's definitely exciting, but I think on the totem pole, the athletes are waiting for the federations who are waiting for the bigger federations, and it's kind of all the way down from the very top head honchos in Tokyo deciding what's going to happen, and then we kind of get trickle-down news. So as far as how I'm planning, I'm just acting like qualification is the game, and I'm gearing towards that, and then hopefully a medal performance.
When is qualification based on?
It's kind of a moving target right now. So May was right around when it would, and there's still that automatic qualification selection event, hopefully in Yokohama, which and with the state of things, everything is always up in the air. And then there's discretionary picks, but right now, depending on what the ITU decides, I think it could be a bit of a moving target. So March 18th, I believe, the committee meets for the ITU, and then a lot of decisions will be made.
How hard is it to focus on training when you don't know what the hell's happening?
Well, I mean, I train to always be better, no matter the distance or the race or anything like that. So for me, I'm lucky to have a target like Challenge Miami to come out here and race some of the best competition in the world. And that helps set me up for good performances later on. So it's early season. There's still a lot to build on from this point in the year. So we're just looking for a good, solid foundation to work from in 2021.
When you look back at the last few years, here you are, a guy, doing mixed relays, which are so short, and then you're doing the Olympic distance, which is draft legal. Then you're doing 70.3. You're trying to mix all these different things together. How have you balanced that training?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that I get a lot. And I go back to my strength is my strength, and I think that when you race a 20-minute race all out, or you come in, you have a more steady race like a Challenge Miami, the underlying positive, I think, or the underlying strength for me is that strength that allows me to go hard for that short period of time at maximal effort.
Right.
And it also allows me to race, kind of sub-maximally, but over a longer time period, and helps me get stronger throughout the race. So the quick stuff, I think some of the long course guys or pure long course guys are just guys who really enjoy the steady riding.
Right.
It's shocking when you have to come out of the corners fast, and it's shocking when you have spikes up and down. And I think that that's going to be a big factor in this race. So I'm hoping to fall back on a little bit of that as we go along tomorrow. But then at the same time, I hope that, we can keep it nice and smooth and use the technical abilities. And it's all about limiting burning those matches. And you only have so many. So, it takes a bit of savviness, I think, to do that as well.
When you look back, and obviously 70.3 Worlds, where you got the silver, and you're being at the Olympics, do you have a favorite race, a race you look back and go, that was the best race I've ever had?
There's tons of fun ones. It's hard to pick. I mean, how can you not like a world championship medal? I always like to bring up Island House too. That was just a fun weekend of racing, multiple races, different styles, a good sprint finish.
Yeah, you and Terenzo, that was one of the greatest finishes of all time. Terenzo, I think, was thinking, I think I might have this, and you came slingshotting by him on that last little turn to the downhill and won the whole thing. That was pretty amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. So it's races like that. It's when you're being competitive and good atmosphere, good course. And I've been lucky to have quite a few of those throughout my career, but some of those ones are good. I mean, Oceanside in 2019 was another good one.
Yep.
So yeah, Alcatraz. I mean, the list goes on. We're pretty lucky to have some amazing races in this sport.
I remember talking to your coach, Jim Vance, once, and he was talking about for longer runs, he was having you do a little walking along with the running. Talk a little about that, because I bet you a lot of guys don't do that, but it probably has helped keep you healthy.
Yeah, it's the theory behind it is that a little bit of walking, it takes off some of the stress on the joints, some of the pounding from the pavement.
Yeah.
And we still get in a good amount of running. It's just, I think that little bit of a break provides some reprieve, and it is a little bit unorthodox. I think it drives some people nuts to have to break their run up into segments, and they know exactly how much. You can't just zone out. I think I have a love-hate with it sometimes. Sometimes it's great to be able to just take a break and enjoy it, but everything is still pretty focused, and we've found that it's helped me extend runs and keep me injury-free. Since 2017, I've been, relatively, I guess I call it niggle-free.
Right.
So there's nothing that's really been hurting or aching too much, and it's been a pretty good technique overall that we found.
Also, Jim was the guy who wrote the original book on running with power, and you were sort of the original guinea pig.
Yeah,
right?
Guinea pig. Yeah,
running with power. When he first approached you with that, was it something that you were skeptical of, and what have you gained from that?
Yeah, I think that I embraced it pretty full on right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it was relatively easy with what we were able to do with just the foot pod, and I let Jim do all the heavy lifting. My job was basically just to collect the data and upload it, and he kind of talked me through and worked me through it, and I started to notice some trends too, and it's just been a good thing to fall back on, and I think we'll see that with the course in Miami too. Is like when you're riding a bike, you go out and you ride a prescribed power, and you know, I can hold this for a certain amount of time. That's going to be beneficial, I think, in Miami here, because the wind is going to affect the speed of the run at certain sections. And it's the same thing when we talk about St. George and the World Champs, and it's 2 miles uphill right at the beginning.
Right.
You're not running your full-on half marathon miles per minute or minutes per mile. You're running, you know, the effort that you can sustain.
Yeah.
So that's where it's become really useful, and is in those courses that are a bit trickier and not just, you know, straight out and back, just lock into the pace and all of that.
I think I remember you during Chattanooga when you got second there. People were like, he keeps looking at his watch, but you were looking at your run power.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of times when, you know, if I'm looking down, I'm usually looking at run power and then how that correlates to the pace and trying to figure out how it all works.
So
and
you're
then
doing
paying
math
attention.
while you're racing. Look at you.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't claim that math is always my strongest, but always trying to. You're trying to weigh out the situations, and racing's all math, isn't it? You're just trying to figure out the time gaps and what can you do to stay in the lead.
Love it. Hey, Ben, always a pleasure to chat with you. Hopefully we'll see you on the podium here, and then we'll be in Tokyo.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Ben Kanute has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Miami. Hold on. We'll be right back.